A warm welcome to those attending and our viewers watching live on the Council YouTube channel Hillingdon, London. It's our first time back, so there might be a little bit few hitches, but we've had one go at it and we seem to have got through that, so hopefully it'll be much better now. My name is Councillor Henry Higgins and I'm the chairman of this meeting. Details of business to be considered today are shown on the agenda, copies of which are accessible online or underlined under the live broadcast. For those presenting in the room and intend to speak, please note that you are being filmed and any statement you make will be recorded and made public. A reminder to anyone speaking today that your voice will only be heard and be audible when the microphone is switched on. We are not expecting a fire drill. If alarm does go off, please follow officers to the fire exit and the way out to the building designated and meeting points. For those in the room, please switch off your mobile devices before the meeting starts or put them on silent. Please note that any councillors on the committee may use their laptops or tablets during the meeting to view the agenda and paperwork. Before we move to the agenda, I'd like to do a roll call, please. Councillors first. Councillor Morgan.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I'm present.
Thank you. Councillor Dott.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I'm here.
Thank you very much. Councillor Haggard.
Good evening, Chairman. I'm here.
Councillor Kaufman. Thank you. Councillor Oswald.
Yeah, present, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Singh.
Present, Chairman.
Councillor Tuckwell.
Good evening, Chairman. I'm present.
Thank you for stepping in, by the way. Councillor Yarrow.
Present, Chairman.
Thank you. We go to the officer call now. Please, Planning Officer James Wells.
Present. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Head of Planning James Rogers.
I'm present, Chairman.
Transport Officer Alan Tilley.
Good evening, Chairman. I'm present.
Thank you. Legal Advisor Glenn Egan. Democratic Service Officer Anisha Teji.
Present.
Thank you very, very much. Firstly, we'll go to before the agenda. We will do the first things, which is apologies for absence. Please, Anisha.
Apologies from Councillor Melvin with Councillor Tuckwell substituting.
Thank you. Declaration of interest matter before this meeting. Councillor Morgan.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, item number 13, Haystill Nurseries. I've actually got them working in my garden at this current moment, so I will declare an interest and will leave the meeting.
Glenn, can we have it? Does he have to leave, or can he just be quiet there? Okay, fine. Thank you very much. To receive and agree the minutes of the last meeting. Did we agree those? Agree. Thank you very much. Matters notified in advance or urgent? None. To confirm public and private reports. Councillors, can you all agree that item 6 is a change in our written representation in lieu of the physical speaking rights now because we're back? So can I have all of you agreeing on item 6? Thank you. And the first one we'll go to is the agenda item 7. James, would you like to do your presentation, please?
Thank you, Chairman. This is item 7, 59 Elm Avenue. This slide shows the location of the site. Before going further, if I could update councillors because a non-determination appeal has been lodged for this item. And effectively that takes the decision out of the council's hands and goes into an appeal process. Therefore, officers would appreciate members' comments and hopefully support for the suggested reasons for refusal. Thank you. I'll continue with the presentation. The application proposes the erection of a 2-storey building with accommodation in the roof, housing 4 times 2-bed flats and 2 1-bed flats. These slides shows the proposed ground floor, and then we have these slides showing the existing bungalow on site to the left and the proposed siting of the new development. Elevations of the existing bungalow, again a ground floor plan, and then first and second floor plans. A roof plan, proposed elevations, and once again proposed elevations also showing the immediately adjoining properties. Then we have photographs. This is a bird's eye view of the site, and then basically a photo montage of the proposed development. If we just this member slip back to, sorry, this is probably the most helpful slide. With regards to consultation responses, 18 objections have been received, with a petition in objection with 83 signatories. A ward member and the Eastcote Residents Association have also objected. With regards to the application, as set out in the report, the proposed development would result in the loss of family housing and would not optimise the provision of family housing in accordance with the borough's housing need. Furthermore, the proposed development, by reason of its design, fails to harmonise with the established local context, to the detriment of the character, appearance and visual amenities of the street scene in the wider area. As I said, an appeal has been lodged, but the application would have been recommended for refusal for the reasons set out in the report. I'm happy to take questions. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, James. We have a lead petitioner, Mr. Michael Bowers. There you go. If you can put your microphone on, please. The red light, the traffic light system works. Green, you go. Yellow, when it's yellow, you've only got a minute, and then red, we'll have to stop you. Okay? There, yeah. Exactly. I have a special button up there in the objection. So, lovely. Okay, so off you go.
Right. Good evening, and thank you, Chairman and committee members, for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the residents regarding the planning application for number 59 Elm Avenue. What I was about to say seems to be going to be changed. As we expected, this development would end up going to a planning application as before. But I would like to just reiterate the concerns that the residents have, so it's on record. As has been said, in total, 83 residents signed the online petition and 18 have submitted written objections. These centred around the building's dominance over the street scene, a lack of family housing and parking and safety issues at a busy junction. The residents, together with the Eastcote Residents Association, welcome the opportunity to assist with strengthening this case for refusal. As stated in the Planning Officer's report, this three-storey development dominates its corner plot in all respects. The neighbouring buildings are separated by a single-storey garages, whereas this development crowds its boundaries. In fact, the Planning Inspectorate's decision on the previous application for 2 detached houses made comment on maintaining a visual gap and openness and sensitivity to scale within the street. The Planning Officer points out that this proposal results in a loss of family housing. Current homes are of good size and proportion, and it is thought that this development, due to its small internal proportions, would indicate a transient occupancy and would not bring anything to the neighbourhood. The lockdowns have made us all more aware of the need for space within our homes and gardens. The centre of Eastcote already has generated over 250 flats, and it is mainly family homes that are needed. The residents are concerned with the lack of available parking for this development and foresee increased parking in the surrounding roads. Parking surveys were carried out during the early hours of the morning, but it is during the working day when commuter parking is at its peak. Also, any random checks that would have taken place would have been carried out during the pandemic lockdown. It should be noted that Elm Avenue is a major east-west route, and there are concerns regarding the volume and speed of the traffic, especially between Lime Grove, Oak Grove and Hawthorne Avenue, which over the years have become busier. It is surprising that the transport consultant's comments in the design statement made no mention of Oak Grove and Lime Grove. Certainly, as the residents of these junctions can testify, it is difficult to get in and out of the properties. Witnessing accidents, near misses, constant sound of horns, or simply trying to cross the road. Lime Grove is the only access road for a large part of the Pembroke estate, whilst Oak Grove and Hawthorne Avenue are both cut-throughs to avoid the traffic lights in the centre of the town. Residents are also extremely concerned about the safety issues regarding the use of parking bays. This development is on top of the busy junction, not only for heavy traffic but for pedestrians as well, going to school, shops and the station. The narrow width of the development the narrow width of this and the developed crossovers, plus the adjacent parking vehicles in the forecourt, would lead to cars pulling out into the main road, into the centre of the junction. Hence why the second crossover was approved in 2005 to provide an in and out driveway further from the junction. We thank you for all your attention and ask that this application be refused. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions? Councillor Oswald.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman. It's quite an easy decision for me. I think this is completely out of character for that road, which I know quite well. I walked it for 4 years from East Oak to Rice when I lived there. Sorry?
It's for a question for the petitioner.
Oh, no, sorry.
I haven't opened it up to the floor yet. Sorry. Does anybody have a question for the petitioner? No. Right, can we, as we have the applicant or agent here. Okay, fine. Anisha, if you could read that, please, that'd be great. Thank you.
Firstly, apologies to you all for not being able to attend in person today. Turning to the application. From reading the committee report, I have noted the Council Highways Officer has found the parking provision and access to and from Elm Avenue to be acceptable. I note the Highways Officer has affirmed the parking survey results as well as an independent site assessment of their road. I note planning officers have found the quality of accommodation and external amenity to serve the needs of future occupants to be acceptable. I note planning officers have assessed the application in terms of neighbouring amenity and together with the submitted sunlight and daylight report have found the development to respect the privacy, daylight, outlook and general amenities of adjoining properties. I note the principle of higher density flats development is supported by planning officers, which is in line with policy H2 of the London Plan 2021, which supports higher density development from small sites within 800 metres of local centres. I note the Council Design Officer has determined the width of the building to be acceptable and reflective of a pair of semi-detached houses. The height of the building is the same as next door. In terms of setback, members are requested to note that the building line varies along both sides of Elm Avenue. Number 1 Lime Grove on the opposite corner is set forward of number 52 Elm Avenue. Likewise, number 42 Elm Avenue is set forward of number 44 Elm Avenue. A corner location provides a degree of flexibility in terms of building lines, as well as an opportunity to erect a more prominent building which is sensitively designed. The Council Design Officer has suggested the roof level accommodation be removed. Members are requested to note several nearby houses along Elm Avenue have full width rear dormers across both halves of semi-detached houses, which not only create full width crown roofs across both houses, but provide roof level accommodation. Roof level accommodation is not only possible for most of the dwellings along Elm Avenue under permitted development rights, but under new permitted development rights, upward extensions for detached houses such as the application site and semi-detached houses are now permitted. As such, roof level accommodation is not an alien feature to Elm Avenue, and in this case has been done sensitively, whilst at the same time delivering an attractive and efficient building in an accessible location. With respect to the provision of a 3-bedroom dwelling, the Council's policy do not specify a requirement for 3-bedroom dwellings. A number of applications in 2019 and 2020 have been determined for 6 times 2-bedroom flats in place of a singular house in Hillingdon Borough, and none of these applications were refused due to a lack of 3-bedroom provision. Notwithstanding the above, had either the Council planning officers communicated this concern to the applicant during the application process, then a 3-bedroom ground floor dwelling could have been accommodated into design and address these specific issues. I request members balance the benefits of the scheme in the delivery of 6 quality dwellings within an accessible location and through a building that respects the width and scale of pairs of semi-detached housing blocks along Elm Avenue, whilst making efficient use of this wider than average corner plot. The development is considered to be in accordance with local plan policies and the newly adopted London Plan 2021. Lastly, the applicant has been informed the Council's planning team has lost half its officers. This application was passed on from one senior officer to another, and whilst an extension of the time was granted and several requests for engagement were requested, none were provided. After several weeks of no communication from any officers of the Council, a non-determination appeal was submitted on the 14th of April this year. As such, this application is already at appeal. It is disappointing to read in the committee report that officers engaged with the applicant when this was not the case. Had they done so, engagement would have been welcomed. Thank you.
Thank you, Anisha. We have a ward councillor here. Councillor McMahon, would you like to have your time? We will put you on a time, as you know. Red, yellow, and then red. Okay, there we go.
Thank you, Chairman. On behalf of the Cavendish Ward Councillors, I strongly support the local residents and the officer recommendation for refusing this application. There are a number of reasons to refuse this application. Firstly, the sheer scale and bulk of the design fails in keeping with the character and appearance of the street scene and the wider area. Elm Avenue is a road that is predominantly made up of 2-storey houses. There are many single-storey garages to the sides of the houses, creating a feeling of space throughout the road. However, the prominent form of this proposed development would encroach on this visual gap and would have a detrimental effect on the openness. The proposed development does not optimise the provision of a family housing in accordance with the borough's housing need. The proposed unit mix fails to provide sufficient family-sized units. The proposed development does not take into account the configuration of all the roads at this busy junction. Elm Avenue is a busy road in itself, but at this particular corner, with Lime Grove on one side and Oak Grove on the other, traffic can be heavy with cars turning at various times throughout the day. This proposed development will only intensify this traffic issue and compromise pedestrian safety as cars try to park and leave forecourt parking spaces. Overall, we strongly believe that this application should be refused. Thank you.
That was nice, short and sweet. Thank you very much. I will open it now to the floor. I had Councillor Oswald and then Councillor Morgan.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Apologies for earlier.
Okay.
I misheard you. It's
No problem.
as I said, I won't repeat it. As I said, it's an easy decision, really. Looking through the report and the officer's recommendation for refusal, it's totally out of character for that road and what's there already. And Councillor McWarner's right. It's not a good development, and I'm going to move the officer's recommendation. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, John. That's short and sweet as well. Councillor Morgan.
Mr. Chairman, I will be seconding the officer's recommendations on this. Elm Avenue is not an easy road to get out onto at the best of times, and this particular junction is extremely difficult as it is. To have that bungalow replaced with a 2/3-bedroom or 3-storey property is going to make it even harder. And with the curb drops actually on the junction, well, we're just asking for an accident to happen. So I'm totally in favour of officers' recommendations, so I'll second Councillor Oswald.
Thank you. I'm going to hold you both just for a second because I just want to come in with you, Mr. Tilley. Are we happy with is there another reason for refusal there on highways?
Thank you, Chairman. As officers were writing highway comments for this report. I received a member's inquiry bringing to our attention the damage that has been done to the footway just outside at the junction of Oak Grove and Elm Avenue, and that appears to have been caused, well, the councillor that wrote the ME suggested it was caused by vehicles overrunning the curb. We've looked into it, and I can confirm that using Transport for London money, that junction is going to be improved. So, as I say, at the time of writing this report, it became to our attention that vehicles were overrunning the footway. That footway is now being repaired, and that is evidence, I would suggest, that there is a problem there, and subject to your discussions, there would be a highways refusal.
Okay. James, do we want to add that in there, or?
Yeah, so at the moment the report has two refusal reasons relating to the size, scale and bulk and the unit mix. I was keen to hear what Alan's views were on highways. I would defer to Alan's views. So if Alan feels that we shouldn't have a third highways reason, that is what I'd be suggesting to you. But obviously what I would also request is that be delegated to me to agree the final wording of the reason, but obviously the concern here is a highway safety one, so it would be on that basis.
Okay, thank you, James. So, can we add that? Yeah, you're happy with that? Okay, fine. So we will add that, and is that fine? So I'll go straight to the vote now. All those in favour of officer's recommendation, can you please indicate? It's a full house. Okay, thank you very much. We'll let you leave. I'm sure you're more than welcome to stay, but we'll let you escape before I move on to the next item. Okay, James, would you like to take us away on item 8, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Item 8 is 77 St George's Drive in Ickenham. This slide shows the location of the site. This application seeks part retrospective planning permission for alterations from brick to white rendering, a new non-openable window, the installation of roller shutters in each window, installation of photovoltaic panels and a replacement fence. As will be seen shortly when I go through the slides and present the photographs, the house, however, has already been rendered, roller shutters have been added to the windows and the fence has been replaced. Only the PV panels have not been installed. I'll just click through various slides. This shows the existing floor plans, and then we have a drawing that shows effectively the proposed elevations, but they're not particularly clear. More helpful are the photographs. Again, we have a bird's eye view, and then these are photographs of the existing house. This is probably the most helpful photographs, which shows the white render and some of the roller shutters partially closed. Following consultation, 15 objections have been received with a petition in objection with 41 signatories. To put it briefly, there's no objection to the proposed PV panels which have not been installed. They would promote sustainable design and reduced energy consumption and carbon emissions. However, the white rendered facade and graphite aluminium windows with roller shutters within the front, side and rear elevations are not considered to be in keeping with the character and appearance of the host dwelling and the local area. They are a prominent negative feature in the street scene and have an adverse impact. Accordingly, the application is recommended for refusal as set out in the report. I'm happy to take questions. Thank you, Chairman.
James, over to you, James. You want to say something before I go to the petition?
Just a quick additional comment. So the point for members to note is that the other properties in the road are all brick and tile. So hence, when looking at the photo, you need to bear in mind that it is completely different the appearance of this dwelling from all the others in the street scene. But I'm sure I'm mindful we have petitioners and agents, so I don't want to steal their thunder.
Yes, you wait your turn. Okay. Yes, Kevin Mentham, you here? Is that a written petition? Yeah. Written? Okay, if you'd like to read that out. Thank you.
The residents of St George's Drive saw the petition as a way of expressing their overwhelming dislike as to the appearance of the property at number 77 St George's Drive and the lack of continuity with the rest of the road. The alterations clearly do not harmonise with the original architectural composition of the original dwelling and is detrimental to the character, appearance and potentially the value of adjacent properties in the street. The retrospective application is misleading. The so-called non-opening window in the garage roof can and does open. See attached photos. We are also concerned about the potential intent to mislead earlier in his original application. The original plan submitted clearly show a brick frontage and an appropriate tiled area, and as near to normal garage door, not the shutter. He clearly had no intention of the final appearance being that way. You don't just change things like that on a whim. He clearly knew what his intentions were. We are confident that the owner knew if he had put in planning permission for the rendering of the frontage and the installation of the shuttered windows, etc., he would almost certainly have been refused. So we believe by carrying out the work and then submitting a retrospective application, he is trying to beat the system. Many residents have had dealings with planning and have experienced how strict they can be. However, all have agreed there must be rules that have to be adhered to. If the property is allowed to remain in its current appearance, we are worried that it will open the floodgates to all sorts of inappropriate, unsympathetic alterations. As you can see from the strength of the petition, this is not a couple of residents whinging. There is definite concern and dismay that he can be allowed to get away with this. We appeal to you not to allow this application and enforce the changes to the frontage back to the original appearance, therefore harmonising with the rest of the road. Thank you.
Thank you, Nisha. You now have an email from the agent allegedly. Who's the agent here? Daniel, you here, Daniel? Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad I'm pronouncing your name and not the ones before. If you like to, we'll give you a time. You go green, amber, and then red. Wait. Photos, yes. We're on the slide. Yeah, you can take your mask off to speak. If you press the button there, red, that one there, and it goes red.
Hi, yes.
Just follow, if you look up, you can see there's a red, amber, and green, green, amber, and red.
Okay, that's fine, thank you.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Off you go.
Thank you, yeah. I mean, just to start off, to explain a little bit about the reason for the rendering, it is purely an insulation question, so it's a sustainability issue. In keeping with putting the PV panels on the garage roof, the intention, it was to provide a solid wall insulation system, which if you're able to scan through this document that I have submitted, there is a section on the solid wall insulation, how it works. It's attached to the outside of the building, and it therefore needs to be rendered over. Now, this type of insulation, not this picture.
We have some photos. Yes, please. Yeah, can you? There's one particular one.
No. If you can, you keep going. Yeah, keep going. These are all. We'll come back to these. Keep going. Yeah, start right. So this is not the subject. This is not the house, but this is how solid wall insulation works. So this is why it's been rendered.
Yeah.
Now
go to the next one. I think it's
there you go.
That's the one.
So that's how it works. Now the benefits from a sustainability point of view are far superior to a traditional cavity wall insulation. So that is the reason. So I thought we'd go back to that first. If we could please go back to the very beginning of this presentation. Really, if you drive around the area, there isn't a coherent street scene. There is a mixture of styles of there's render, there's brick, there's render next to brick. You've got front dormers, side extensions, you've got permitted development where you've allowed various bits and pieces. It's not by any means a coherent street scene. These semi-detached dwellings here are on the corner of Copthall Drive and 77 and St George's Drive. if you go to the next slide, please. So this is the corner. This is St George's Drive heading up. If you next slide, please. You can see in the background, you can see next to the two tall conifers, you can see the subject property. So you can see there is a dichotomy. There is white and render and brick, and it is a mixture. The adjacent property, number 75, which actually was the very first picture on this slide, has a rear extension which is white rendered. Now, I appreciate this is on the rear, but there's argument as to whether there should be any render at all. It's been allowed at number 75. Most importantly, the most pertinent comparable would be, if you go to the next slide, please. Yes, so this is Windrush Close. So this is a retrospective application. Very similar. Was a brick building. Was in a poor state of repair, but was actually granted retrospective planning consent in September 2020. And the officer noted, and I quote, "There is a divergence in the external materials adopted in the redevelopment of this property and the wider character of the area. However, there is also a mix of arrangements in the locality." So, you can see brick render. If we go to the next slide, please. Yeah, this is Thornhill, 66 Thornhill Road. Once again, you've got brick and render. If you go to the next slide, you'll see what it looked like previous. So this is a Google Earth image in 2008. There was planning permission granted in 2009, and then in 2012, on the next, well, you've seen what it looks like now, it's rendered. And this story continues. If we keep going, number 5 is, next slide, please. This is 40 Woodstock Drive. Again, render, total different style, if you look at the house next door. And if we go, please, to the next slide, you can see through the trees what it looked like previously. It was brick. So there is a catalogue of precedents here in terms of brick houses going to render. Now, in this specific instance, my client has done this purely on the basis of sustainability. If I've got a quick moment on the roller shutters, they are in. If we please click through to, if we can go through to the end, or a picture of the house, section 3, please. If we can just click through, keep going. Keep going. I mean, these more stars. You can see there's different styles here. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Yeah, keep going. Keep going. Oh, so this is. Oh, no, someone's missed out a couple of pictures. I have a picture of the front of the house, which shows the roller shutters entirely up. Yeah. You wouldn't know they exist.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to stop you there.
I'm not ready yet. No.
Yeah, time's up. Okay. I think we get the gist.
Well, I mean, just on the roller shutters, because we had a bit of a problem at the beginning. You can see they're up, and they've been installed such that they're invisible when they're up.
Honestly, I have to stop you there. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant? No? Okay. I will open it to the floor. I don't have any ward councillors' comments. Who's going to take me away? Councillor Hager.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for speaking on both parties. Just looking at this, actually, there is quite a large difference. It's retrospective as well, which is always a little bit of a on top of that, when you actually look at the pictures, actually, it really does give a good defined difference between the brick and what they've done here with the roller shutters, with the PVC panels. So actually, for me, I would support officer's recommendations and actually remove for refusal.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This is actually quite a difficult one because it's, in many ways, the agent or the owner has trying to improve the outlook of his property. He's trying to improve the insulation and such like. And in many ways, okay, when it's in progress, it never looks as good until it's all finished and the landscape is done. However, my concern more is of the steel shutters, the roller shutters. That to me is totally out of character with any residential property in Ickenham. It's sort of like saying, actually, this is quite a rough area, and it's not. So in many ways, I feel sorry for the applicant on this, but I will be seconding the officer's recommendations. It is very difficult because, to me, with the rendering, it's like painting the front of the house. It's you either like it or you hate it, and I'm quite easy with it. So,
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. You're seconded, Councillor Dot.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've seen many pictures with the different outlook of the buildings on the streets, like with the brick or renderings on the same streets, but still considering the impact, such as unsuitable appearance of the building on the surrounding properties and the negative impacts on the appearance of the street scene, I would like to support the officer recommendations.
Thank you very much. I mean, I think the biggest secret here is get permission first. Keep trying to tell every time we have a planning meeting to anybody that does application, have permission first before you start doing stuff. So I will now take that to the floor. Can we have a vote on this, please? Those in favour of officer's recommendation? That's all of them. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for your comments and your thing. You're kind. You can leave if you wish, or you may stay if you want to. Right. The next one is item 9, which is the telecommunication in Windmill Hill. James, if you'd like to take us away, please.
Thank you, Chairman. As you said, this is item 9, site in Windmill Hill, Ruislip. This slide shows the location of the site with a bit more detail on the next slide, including some of the nearby properties. The application seeks prior approval for the installation of a 15-metre monopole with cabinets and associated works under Part 16, Schedule 2 of the Town and Country Planning General Permitted Development Order 2015. The purpose of the works is to upgrade the Hutchinson 3G UK Limited network to improve existing coverage and capacity, as well as providing 5G to the surrounding area. This slide shows the location of the site with a photograph in the bottom left-hand corner of the site, the approximate location of the equipment, including basically a street light, which we understand to be of the order of 9 to 10 metres high. This again shows the site with existing trees indicated as seen on the previous photograph, and then we have this which shows the approximate height of existing trees and again the street light, and then this slide shows the approximate location of the new equipment, and then we have this slide showing the proposed 15-metre monopole in situ. And we have a photograph showing a bird's eye view of the site and the approximate location of the equipment. Again, a slide I've mentioned, a photograph showing what I've mentioned before. The same again. I won't leave that on screen for now, but we'll come to that. That's included to assist the petitioner, as I understand it. I'll click back to help members with indication of the scheme. Following consultation, 22 objections from residents and the Ruislip Residents Association, and a petition in objection with 20 signatories were received. The applicant has confirmed that the proposed installation complies with International Commission for Non-Ionising Radiation Protection guidelines. Accordingly, in terms of government policy advice, there is not considered to be any direct health impact. The addendum sheet confirms that the MOD and RAF Northolt have no objections and provides updates to recommended condition 2 and also sets out the objections raised by Ruislip Residents Association. As set out in the report, page 58 of the agenda, surrounding sites have been considered and discounted. Given the location of the site, the proposal is considered to have limited impact on the adjacent residential properties in terms of visual amenity. Therefore, it is considered to be in accordance with the policies of the local plan, and for the reasons set out in the report, the application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman. Happy to take questions.
Thank you, James. I don't think so. Have we got lead petitioner Tim Markham?
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. My name's Tim Markham. I live at 9 Windmill Hill, and in the interest of full disclosure, Michael Markham is my brother, Councillor Michael Markham. So I represent. We couldn't
tell that by the look of you at all.
So I represent the residents of Windmill Hill, and we're concerned that our comments, as made a part of the planning process, have not been fully represented in the report you're considering. So I'm here today to request that you that our views receive proper consideration. We understand that the government may be putting pressure on local authorities for 5G network capacity, but that doesn't mean that the proposed location of this mast is appropriate, nor that the planning recommendation to approve the application is justified, especially, I believe, bearing in mind a similar application for a mast just 100 metres away from this site was recently rejected. Since some of you may be unfamiliar, we've had a few photographs of the site. I think you've seen one of them already. We've superimposed, another photograph of another mast adjusted for scale, and this is looking up Windmill Hill from the manor towards the island, and it's almost twice the height of the trees. And the proposed masts and cabinets are hugely out of proportion to what might reasonably be permitted in a residential area, and constitute a significant eyesore in what's now a very pretty wildlife area. It will be visible from the retail parade of Ruislip Manor some 200 metres away, and a potential additional visual hazard on the busy bus route, an island roundabout which is used by children and parents crossing to and from Warrender Nursery and School. So erecting an industrial architectural mast 15 metres tall, under 20 metres from a nearby properties, and actually less than the 25 metres stated in the report, is highly inappropriate, and it's difficult to see how the visual intrusion can be justified. One report comment, I believe, suggests that locating the mast across the road from a property mitigates its visual impact. This isn't correct. I think your policy itself, DMHB11, specifically protects the outlook for residents, defined as the visual amenity enjoyed by occupants when looking out of their windows. This mast will loom over the nearby properties and will be visible from both front windows and front and back gardens. The planning document has incorrectly cited the distance from both 28.5 and 28 Windmill Hill, but the mast would actually be closer to 24 West Hatch Manor and 2 Old Hatch Manor, and there's no mention of either of them. We've also been referred to a policy under household developments that regard should be given to the character of the area and distances between buildings. As a guide, the distance should not be less than 21 metres between facing habitable rooms and windows. I believe the Ruislip Residents Association cite 19.2 metres in their submission. We also note that the council's trees and landscape officer calls it a visual blot on the landscape and believes it's contrary to the local plan. It does not seem reasonable to conclude that the application complies with the relevant local plan, sections relating to visual impact, amenity and character and appearance of a local area, or that there is no possibility for alternative sites. The last being rejected, plan only some 100 metres away. This appears to be a lazy alternative by the applicant. Further, the National Planning Policy Framework referenced in the report states that the number of masts should be kept to a minimum. We already have masts in Parkway and King's College, some 300 metres away from this site. So in coming to your conclusion, I hope that you can carefully consider the effect the masts would have on both the local residential area and we the residents, and trust that you represent our interests and recognise the strength of feeling that's been expressed by the issues raised. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Markham. Any questions from Mr. Markham? No? Okay, we go then to the applicant, Mr. Wiseman. Is he here? He's not in attendance. Does he have any written submission? No. Okay, then we go, we have a written submission from your brother, Councillor Markham. Would you like to read that out?
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
As a Manor Ward councillor, I am formally submitting an objection to the application for a telecommunications mast on Windmill Hill, Ruislip, one side of which is in Manor Ward, the other side is in the Eastcote and East Ruislip Ward. The application number is 75613/@2021/1383. The officer report gives details as to the strength of feeling local residents from both wards have against this application. I would like to add my support to the two petitions and also object to the application. This is the second time an application for a mast on this site has been submitted. An application was refused last year on the grounds that the proposed development, by reason of the size and siting of the proposed monopole and the size, scale and siting of the equipment cabinets, would create an obtrusive form of development which would add visual clutter to the detriment of the character, appearance and visual amenities of the street scene. The proposal is therefore contrary to policy BE1 of the Hillingdon Local Plan, Part 1, Strategic Policies, November 2012, and policies DMHB 11 and DMHB 12 of the Hillingdon Local Plan, Part 2, Development Management Policies 2020. This new application before the committee simply moves the mast 180 metres to the north-east. It does not comply with the reasons for refusal given for the previous application. I submit to members that the reasons for refusal given last year are as relevant as this time as they were last, and I therefore ask members to put local residents first and to refuse this application. Thank you, Councillor Michael Markham.
Thank you, Nisha. That's lovely, well, nicely written. I'll open it straight to the floor. I have two speakers already, which is Councillor Tuckwan and Councillor Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Where do we start? I mean, I think every member here would be eager to support an enhanced 5G infrastructure. We all want that, but it has to be in appropriate positions, and there has to be some trade-offs. I'm afraid I know this part of the world very well. It would be over-dominant, it would add visual clutter, it would impact greatly on what is a nice green space. I think it's contrary to a number of policies, and I'll just nail my colours to the mast, pardon the pun, but I won't be able to support this application this evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We're all relying on these mobile phones now, be it 3G, 4G, 5G. Next one that comes out, 6G, there'll be even more masts. But again, they've got to be put at places where it's not going to affect the residents. And unfortunately, I'll put my teeth back in a minute. This particular mast is not only, I believe, only 19 metres away from the housing. Is that correct, officers? Perhaps you can check that afterwards, please. If the previous one that was refused last year, and between numbers 42 and 44 Windmill Hill, and this one is up for approval, I'm sorry, I can't see what the difference is. If we refuse 42 and 44, we should be refusing this one as well. So I'm sorry, officers, I cannot support your recommendation and would go for refusal.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. I forget the flavour for this, I think, tonight. Councillor Hagger.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I agree with my colleagues. I mean, this is just plainly, it's just in the totally wrong place, completely. And I think we can see us from that photo when we go to where you've actually superimposed it onto the Windmill Hill Junction there. It's just in the wrong place. It doesn't go with the street scene at all. It's certainly contrary to the policy of BE1. But it's not just the 15-metre pole. We're talking about the cabinets as well. It's a very busy location. It is actually a very busy spot. The kids go to school, they cross over along there, so it's used a lot. But not only that, it just sticks out. It's not even covered anywhere. So it's sort of there's not a tree or anything that's covering it. So unfortunately, I agree with my colleagues, and I wouldn't be supporting.
Okay, I mean, it is one of the nicest parts of Ruislip Manor, actually, that little bit there. Yes, Councillor Yarrow, I was just going to wind up, but go on.
Yes, very quickly, obviously I agree with what all of my colleagues have said. I mean, I was reading the report and I was astonished to find that the reason for refusing this is actually written in the officer's report. I was scratching my head about, well, how can we refuse this if the officers have said we're going to accept it? And there it was in page 51, that it's just totally unacceptable. And if it was unacceptable a year ago, it most certainly is unacceptable now. So I shall be supporting the refusal.
Thank you. I think, James, you can see what's happening here, and obviously you put it in the report, so there it is. We will go for refusal on those grounds.
I will be brief. So just to clarify, so just to clarify, the refusal was a different location. So it was, as set out on top of page 51, it was 188 metres away. But if members were to refuse it, I would probably be pointing in terms of the reasons you may wish to refuse it to top of page 51, because I'm not sure I can comment further. Councillor Yarrow has correctly spotted the report does actually set out, if you were to refuse it, how you would refuse it.
Right. On that note, shall we refuse it on the grounds that are displayed on page 51? Do I have a proposer for refusal? Councillor Tuxworth?
Yeah, I'd happily propose refusal on those grounds.
Councillor Morgan?
I'll second that refusal.
I'll go to the rest of the committee. Are you going to vote for refusal? Please indicate. That's unanimous. Okay, there we go. Thank you very much. Although we still use our phones, but there you go. There we go. They have to come up with a better design than that. I'm sorry, with all the technology, phones are that size and they got masks that big, it just doesn't really add up, does it? Maybe we'll have phones that are bigger and masks that are smaller. That might be the better answer. Anyway. So, I think I've got one of those one-ups in my loft somewhere, those bricks. Well, anyway, we'll go for there. So, yeah, we go to item 10. James, would you like to take us away on that one, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Item 10 is 26 Highland Road. This slide shows the location of the site. Before going into further details, I'd like to just explain to members that the description of development, it should effectively not refer to 2 times 2-bed units, but it should refer to this proposal, which is effectively to create a 2-bedroom unit in an existing extension to the house, and that would leave the existing dwelling as one 3-bed unit. So that description is slightly misleading. It's slightly confusing. There is a 3rd bedroom in the roof of the existing dwelling, so I think that's the reason for it. I hope that's helpful. I'll carry on now with the proposal. The application proposes the subdivision of the existing semi-detached dwelling to create an attached 2-bedroom house, which presently comprises a 2-storey side extension. These slides, we had the location of the site. This shows the existing house, lower left corner, the existing house with the 2-storey extension referred to in the report. And then we have, again, the proposed scheme, and effectively, as I said, it's the side extension which is proposed to become a 2-bedroom house on its own. These also show in more detail the proposed floor plans. And then we have an aerial view of the site, and then a photograph showing the existing house and extension, and from the rear, once again. I'll just click back to the slide showing the proposed plans. Following consultation, 8 objections have been received and a petition in objection with 35 signatories. As set out in the report, the proposed 2-bed dwelling house would result in a cramped form of development that would be harmful to the character and appearance of the street scene. The application was reviewed by the Highway Authority here at the Council, who recommended that the application was refused on highway grounds. However, the agents have recently submitted a Highways technical note to rebut this reason for refusal. The Highway Authority have reviewed the note and accepted that the London Plan 2021, recently adopted London Plan, those parking standards should be applied, and as those parking standards are met, the highway objection should be withdrawn, and effectively the second recommended reason for refusal is hereby withdrawn. However, for the first reason set out in the report, the application is recommended for refusal. Thank you. I'm happy to take questions. Chairman.
Thank you very much, James. We have objections from Mr. Graham Mann. You called, but there was no answer, but he's here. You're here. Well done. Welcome. You have your, as you know, probably know because you've been listening right through, you have your minutes and they will be indicated in front of you. As soon as it gets to amber, you realise you have a minute left, and then red means stop. Okay, and I will stop you. Okay, off you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, with reference to a plan and application from Nazir Kazelbash in respect to 26 Highland Road, Norwood Hills, I make no apology for briefly outlining the history regarding the aforementioned person, the address, and his previous applications. The property at 26 Highland Road was purchased by Mr. Kazelbash for the purpose of extending a semi-detached house into a property 3 times the size, in literally every direction: side, upper side, rear, upper rear, and replace the roof, all for more space. Obviously, as a next-door neighbour, I was shocked when I studied the submitted plans, as were many neighbours in the road. To prevent some of this enlargement, I was encouraged to submit a petition, which I did. The building application and numerous objections, including mine, were heard at the Planning Committee meeting, and after deliberation, the gross works were refused. Confirmation made by letter on the 17th of January 2006. Mr. Kazelbash appealed against this Planning Committee decision to the Inspectorate Bristol, who after a site visit on the 28th of November 2006 approved the appeal with conditions. Whilst waiting a decision from the Planning Inspectorate, Mr. Kazelbash submitted a single-side extension application and another, which I made no objection to. That was on the 17th of January 2006. The massive building works eventually started and took a long time to complete, and to this day some have not been dealt with properly. External walls have pipes protruding without being secured. A thin white emulsion with one coat was sprayed on the walls and is still not treated professionally. Mr. Kazelbash is an absent landlord who I have only seen a handful of occasions since 2013. Now to deal with the latest planning application, which seeks permission to split the house into 2, made feasible by increasing the semi-detached by 3 times the size, and producing an additional 2-bedroom dividing the existing garden and parking with a separate side door entrance. This houses are already misshapen and an eyesore. There are no houses that are remotely similar to this money-grabbing project. A number of semi-detached houses have been extended sympathetically and with consideration. If this application is approved, it could be an open house for others to do a similar harmful mess, and the street scene, which otherwise is pleasant, will turn out to be a free-for-all with irregular shapes, sizes, making a cramped form of development. Residents on this corner are concerned that this property, where 3 car accidents have occurred, will look like a car park, with vehicles being shuttled in and out of the narrow driveway into the road. It is worth noting that the plans show 2 cars on the driveway, but with no measurements. But already, without this extension, 3 cars are often parked in the driveway. There is insufficient on-plot parking. An area of garden in the driveway for soaking up rainwater appears to have almost been erased from the plans, which was a condition set out on an additional planning application. New resident street parking regulations are due soon, but have been delayed due to COVID-19. But very recently, it has been revealed that street parking availability might dramatically reduce, with no parking between 1 and 2 p.m. Monday to Friday. If a resident or visitor to number 26 tried to park by the driveway corner, it would be deemed to be causing an obstruction and endangering motorists driving around the corner and preventing access to my house, number 24. This is a busy road. Multi-occupancy properties of any type in Highland Road are unknown and undesirable and not part of the street scene, and long may that continue. I decided to canvass local neighbours and found that they were disgusted at this undesirable increase of activity from this property to the detriment of our neighbourhood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to have to stop you there because your time's out.
Got 2 more lines.
I'm afraid not. Okay, otherwise I'll have to for the agent. So thank you very much for that. Does anybody have any questions? No? Do you have any questions? No? Okay, the agent is Mr. Alex Richards. You present? There you go. I think I've explained it before, so hopefully you understand. What's the time? Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to address the committee. I'd like to put forward the reasons why that this proposal accords with the development plan. The starting point is the principle of development. The committee report associated with this application agrees that the scheme is acceptable in principle. The proposal involves the subdivision of the existing 4-bedroom house to retain a 3-bedroom unit and to provide an additional 2-bedroom unit. Optimising existing sites to deliver homes is strongly supported by both the MPPF, Policy H2 of the London Plan, as well as Policy H1 of the local plan. The delivery of a new home in a sustainable location with good access to local amenities and transport carries significant weight. The units will be of high quality design and contribute to housing need in the borough. That's in terms of design, that's the internal arrangement. Given that the development will create two houses, Policy DH4 that relates to conversions, flats is not relevant, and Policy DMH1 that seeks to protect existing housing is satisfied. In terms of the design is being recommended for refusal based on the impact on the street scene. The justification for this is that the uniform nature of the terrace means that subdivision would not be acceptable. The street scene is how the development would be perceived at street level if someone was to walk past and look at the site. Throughout the committee report, it consistently acknowledges that no external alterations are proposed to the existing building. If planning consent was granted, there would be no difference from if someone walked past it today or after the development was completed. On this basis, we take the view that the street scene would not be affected by the proposed development, and the fact that the delivery of new housing would outweigh any harm that could be perceivable in this instance. A justification for the reason for refusal is based on the uniform plot sizes. As members of the committee will note from the site location plan contained in the committee reports pack, the plot shape of 26 Highland Road is not uniform when looking at the adjacent properties on Highland Road. Is an orthogonal shape benefiting from a large garden comparatively. Given the plot is not uniform, this aspect of the assessment is considered flawed. No harm would arise of the proposal, and I would strongly just make sure the delivery of a new home is being proposed in this instance. Given that no alterations to the building are proposed, no impact on the street scene would arise. We consider that the proposed development is acceptable in this regard. As officers have indicated the highways objection has been removed based on the technical evidence produced by the applicant. I would therefore like to say to the committee that the overriding benefit of this scheme is to deliver a new home and retain an existing family home. This weighs strongly in favour in terms of the planning balance. In our view, the development would not result in impact on the street scene due to no alterations being proposed externally. Each unit would benefit from a large garden that reflects the wider development pattern. The scheme would provide a level of parking that complies with the standards, and this has been evidenced via technical means through officers. The scheme, the existing house has been extended before, and that affords the opportunity to deliver a new 2-bedroom home which would serve someone in the local residence. Thank you for your time, much appreciated. If there's any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Richards. We have an email from one of the councillors. Do you want to read that out for me, Nisha?
Thank you, Chairman. Email from Councillor Duncan Flynn. This is an obvious example of an attempt to squeeze in additional development into a location which has already limited space. As the officer's report has mentioned, Highland Road already has considerable parking issues, and giving a green light to this application would only exacerbate these issues. The application would also fundamentally change the character of a classic interwar suburban street scene, which is typically of much of Northwood Hills and the surrounding area. For these reasons, I support the officer's recommendation to refuse this application.
Thank you very much, Anisha. Does any officers want to come back and do the comments? Are they happy with everything?
The only point I would emphasise is that the officers are only recommending refusal reason number 1, as explained by James. So obviously members do need to be mindful of that in terms of their consideration of the application. And if they have obviously any further questions regarding the highway matters, we've got Alan here to answer them.
That's correct. So, first of all, I've got Councillor Morgan and then Councillor Dodds.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I know Highland Road very well. This particular corner is part of a U-shaped bend that goes from York Road into Highland Road and then back up a hill. On both, we're talking about 90-degree corners here, not a gentle corner, but quite a sharp one. As Mr. Mann said, there have been numerous accidents on that particular corner. We've got it up on the screen at the moment. There's been at least 3 accidents that I'm aware of on that corner, purely because people can't see round the corner. We're now proposing that a pair of semi-detached houses becomes a terraced houses. So it becomes 3 houses, not 2. With that, with 2 households in that place, you're going to have more vehicles, more cars. Where will they park? You're obviously going to will be yellow lines on that corner, so they can't park outside their own house, and then going up and down the road with the proposed parking management scheme, there'll be very few spaces for them to park. I fully support this officer's recommendations on this, and I do feel that there is an issue with this particular corner and traffic, so I will ask officers to have another look at that to see if we can get something in there, because it is a dangerous corner as it is. I have been almost involved in accidents where cars are coming too fast down the road. So yep, we do need something in there to tighten this up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Dott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Councillor Morgan suggested, there's a problem, parking problems are there. Clearly, in the proposal, like the insufficient car parking and no or little details are provided in the proposal, this will put extra stress on the public highway, and there are other concerns such as scale, dimension of the plot, and its appearance on the street scene, I would like to support the officer recommendations. Yeah.
Second that, yeah? Okay, thank you. So I have a proposal and a second. I'll go straight to the floor. All those in favour of officer's recommendation, please indicate. Oh, well, that's what is the other? Sorry, we've got the one reason that's on the floor.
Apologies for interrupting. So the officers are proposing just reason number 1. So I'm just clarifying if members are.
I think members, if there is another reason that they can to do for refusal, I'm sure they would love you to come forward with it and
No,
obviously if it's a traffic situation of accidents or something like, I think what's happened is that the last petition got something out of it when it comes to the traffic management scheme there. I just want to know, I suppose, what's the next step. I think we just go with what's in the report. If there's not another...
The officer recommendations...
we'll go with the officer recommendations.
Is that we can defend reason 1 at appeal, but we feel we need to drop reason 2.
Fine, so we'll go with just what's laid out on the table there. Before we confirm all the voting, Councillor Kaufman left the room. I don't know whether... Obviously, Councillor Kaufman heard the application, but left the room apart from the applicant's statement. So, okay, sorry about that, Alan. You'll have to stand down. All right. So, yeah, that's it. That red button behind there is going to come into effect. So, on that note, apart from Alan, does everybody else agree with officer's recommendation? Thank you very, very much. Okay, so that's unanimous part 1. One absentee, I think, is the thing. We move on to item 11, 2 Gate Hill Road. James, would you like to take us away on that one, please?
Thank you, Chairman. This slide shows the location of the site. The application proposes the erection of a 2-storey side extension and a 2-storey rear extension involving demolition of the existing garage. These slides show the existing floor plan with the existing garage, the existing roof plan, and existing elevations. These slides go on to show the proposed side and rear extensions, the ground floor, the proposed first floor, the roof plan, and the proposed elevations. The lower of the two is effectively the front elevation of the house as proposed, and then we have effectively the rear and the other side elevation. Once again, there's a bird's eye view photograph, and then we have just a photograph of the existing house and the existing garage. Following consultation, 4 objections were received, along with a petition in objection with 33 signatures. With regards to the application as set out in the report, commenting on a previous application at the site in 2020 which proposed similar extensions, the Council's Conservation Officer raised no objection, advising that in isolation the proposed side and rear extensions would remain sympathetically in keeping with the architectural language of the original dwelling and would ensure the existing street scene elevations remain intact. As set out in the report, the Council's tree officer has raised no objections to the development, subject to the inclusion of safeguarding pre-commencement conditions which are included. The development would not cause harm to the character and appearance of the site or the wider area of special local character. There will be no harm to the amenity of nearby residents, and the level of parking for the property would be acceptable. On that basis, the application is recommended for approval. I'm happy to take questions. Thank you, Chairman.
I like that. You always ask if I want to ask questions, but I don't. So. Yes. Shall I go? to the written petition?
Sorry, I just wanted to quickly strengthen one of the planning conditions. Condition 3 is just materials matching. I think given the architectural merit of the existing property, we should be getting samples. So it'd be I know members will be familiar from lots of other cases they've dealt with that we do have a stricter condition, if I can call it that requires samples of the bricks and tiles, etc.
Good.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Anisha, do you want to read out the written submission?
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. This written representation is made to the North Planning Committee by the Gatehill Residents Association. We have read the officer's report on this application and understand her reasons for recommending that it be approved. We still feel that our objections are valid. These are: 1. Possible incorrect ownership certification. 2. Proposed extensions identical to previously withdrawn application. 3. Proposed internal subdivision into flats omitted. 4. Disproportionately large extensions. 5. Several contraventions of policy DMHD1, alterations and extensions to residential dwellings. 6. Unacceptable loss of privacy for neighbours due to new overlooking at less than 21 metres. 7. Reduction in light entering window to the sole habitable room in number 4 Gatehill Road. 8. Applicant does not accept that the property is within a critical drainage area. 9. Misleading parking survey. 10. Numerous ecological constraints, including the presence of bats. 11. Condition needed to prevent the property from being subdivided or used as a HMO. In respect of objection 1 above, we repeat that our search of the land registry, we found that Tilehurst Limited, brackets, a British Virgin Islands company, is the registered owner. Tilehurst was the owner applying for the withdrawn application to build 4 flats on the site. This application is made in the name of Mr. V. Patel and the application is invalid. In respect of objection 11 above, we would add that the officer in the report highlights that among the uses proposed for the site was the extension and conversion to 4 flats. Subsequently, this proposal was the subject of a planning application which, following overwhelming opposition, was withdrawn. The current plans show an identical footprint to this withdrawn application. In view of this, the GRA asks that a further condition be attached to any permission which may be granted to this application, stated, the approval is given solely for a single-family occupancy of the curtilage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anisha. We have the agent here, Mr. David Carroll. Yes, you've been here right the way through, so you know the score. So if it goes red, I will stop you. There you go.
Thank you very much for letting me speak to the committee tonight. I hope that I can do it very quickly. In the autumn of 2020, my clients applied for permission to convert 2 Gatehill Road into 4 flats, and this included a rear and side extension, the feature of the application before you. My client withdrew the application, which was recommended for refusal, but the officer's report was issued as a matter of record. It's clear to me, reading the report the 18th November 2020, that your planning officer's reasons for refusal for that application were based on the over-intensification of the plot, based on the application to create multiple units. So the reasons for refusal, lack of off-street parking, quality and size of flats, layout of gardens, were related to the conversion and not to the size of the extension. So this application before you tonight retains the extensions and removes the conversion. The conclusion of the Council's Conservation and Design Officer to the current application is this, and I quote, the impact of the extensions in isolation would result in some harm, but this would be moderate in isolation. The proposed side and rear extensions would remain sympathetically in keeping with the architectural language of the original dwelling, and it would ensure the existing street elevations remain intact. Your planning officer concludes that overall the extensions are subordinate to the main house and do not cause harm to the character and appearance of the area of special local character. The extensions do not create amenity problems for neighbours. Rear extension meets the 45-degree test. it's accepted that the neighbour's privacy is not impinged, as windows on upper floors will either be frosted or will be a long way from neighbouring properties. There's no significant loss of light or outlook from the side extension, which is 8 metres away from the side of the property at number 4 Gatehill. There are no issues in respect to car parking, and the drainage issues can be resolved by condition. I would therefore urge you to follow officers' recommendations and approve this application. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, does anybody have any questions for the applicant? No? Okay, I'll open it straight to the... Oh, sorry, beg your pardon. Yes, we have... Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, there's 2 emails from 2 ward councillors, Councillor Bianco and Councillor Flynn. Yeah.
Councillor Bianco's representations. My objections to this proposal are the same as those I voiced last time this property came before the committee. The last application was to extend the property and then convert it from a single dwelling to 4 flats. This application is for a virtually identical sized building, but instead is for a single dwelling. This property is an excellent example of the arts and crafts movement and forms one side of the gateway to the estate. The changes proposed will dilute this position, and that is regrettable as this building is so prominent. My concern remains that if this application is granted, a further application will follow for the conversion of the enlarged property into 4 flats. I would therefore be grateful if the committee is minded to approve this application that they add a condition against future subdivision. Representations from Councillor Flynn. By subdividing this property from a single dwelling into 4 flats would risk setting a precedent on the Gatehill Farm estate, which enjoys an area of special local character designation. The vast majority of properties on the estate are single dwellings, and I fear permitting this application could open the floodgates for future applications for flatted developments on the estate. This would significantly increase the density of the estate, put pressure on car parking, and fundamentally change the character of a pleasant and peaceful part of our borough. For these reasons, I oppose this application.
Thank you, Anisha. There's another one, is there, or just that one? Just that one. Okay, well done. Okay, now I will open it to the floor. I've got Councillor Oswald and Councillor Morgan.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman. Yeah, it's a good report, and it meets our criteria, doesn't it? So it's in policy, and it's also in line with local plan 2. So, and I know it won't please the petitioners, but I'm sorry about that, but that's just the way it is. It is as it is, and I'll move the officer's recommendation, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Sorry, did you indicate? I thought you indicated, but if you haven't, I'll take someone else. But, I just before we go any further, I mean, obviously there is some. I totally agree with John there that unfortunately we're sort of hands are tied a little bit, and obviously the issue of what we're being said by future subdivision is something that we can't do. That we have to take each planning application on its own merit, so that we can't do anything about that now, can we, James?
No, I mean there'd need to be a separate.
Okay.
Planning permission would be required to subdivide this property into separate units.
I just wanted to make that exactly. Yeah. So what I'm going to suggest, with all your approval, is that we do have a HMO condition on here anyway. I think something better than nothing. But I think that if we add that as well, that'd be quite thing. And obviously, the materials condition wanted to be beefed up, as James said. So, on that note, Councillor Morgan, do you want to?
Yeah, I just have issues with this particular property in the sense that it's an area of, I was going to say outstanding beauty, but I think you understand what I mean, yeah. Where it's the only area in Northwood Hills that has not been converted into flats. And the way this is going, I can see this coming back in 3 months, 5 months, 6 months' time to be converted into flats, and there's nothing we can do to stop it. You know, I'm sorry, I will not be supporting the officer's recommendations.
That's fine.
Purely because I can see what's going to happen.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, James.
So we do have to deal with this purely as an extension. there are things that we have had concerns with on the Gatehill estate, mega basements, large crown roofs. None of those are present here. And in effect, subject to the change to one of the conditions, as long as we get properly matching materials, and hence that's why I think that condition is really important. The extensions, we consider they comply with our policies in effect, so there's no reason to refuse the application. I do feel we may be jumping ahead of ourselves though, and it may be the case that were there an application, it's not necessarily the case that we would have to approve it. You know, we'll just have to deal with that on its merits, cross that bridge where we come to it in effect. The proposal is for extensions, and I personally can't see any reason we could refuse it. And I would also add that you do also need to look at the surroundings for a particular property, and yes, it is in an area of special local character, and the Gatehill is particularly special because it hasn't had adverse appeal decisions unlike certain other areas of special local character. I think members know where I'm going there. But number 107 across the road is actually a very big property, so there is certain things particular to the street scene that wouldn't help us if we were you know, looking for reasons to criticise this proposal. I think the best thing to do is to approve it, but with the right planning conditions.
Mr. Tuckwell, Councillor Tuckwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I think we have to determine as a committee what's in front of us. It would be nice if we had a crystal ball, and we'll have to deal with that as if and when it comes in front of us again. But I'd happily, on the basis of that, it's within policy, second officer's recommendation.
Thank you very much. So I'll go straight to the vote. Those in favour of the application, please indicate. Yes, sorry.
The Chairman mentioned adding a condition that would effectively take away permitted development right to change the property to an HMO. So I just need to clarify if members are adding that condition as well.
I could mention it.
Yes. I'm trying to do all the housekeeping. Apologies.
We'll come back and get some more problems. So, again, I didn't have a vote from Councillor Kaufmann and Councillor Morgan. You're abstaining, or abstaining? Councillor Kaufmann, are you for officer's resignation?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. This is a well-rounded report, and with James's additional sort of information, I'm happy to go along with this.
Okay, so that's one abstention. Okay, Anisha, thank you. And that finishes our petitions. Now,
yeah.
Thank you very much for your time. Okay, so we will go on to applications without petition, which is item 12, which is 173 to 175 Field End Road. James, would you like to give us a presentation on that one, please?
Thank you, Chairman. This is item 12, 173 175 Field End Road, Eastcote. This slide shows the location of the site. The application proposes the conversion of the existing second floor flat into two three-bed flats involving the use or conversion of existing roof space to habitable use, including two rear dormers, and the addition of a first floor over an existing single-storey element at the rear to create an additional two-bed self-contained flats. These slides show the ground and first floor plans as existing, and then we have second floor roof void plans, roof plans. These are elevations, the existing rear elevation, including first floor elements on either side of the application site, and the first floor element is similarly shown on the section or the lower of the two drawings. Again, we have elevations, sections as existing. These are the proposals, the ground and first floor plans as proposed. It's not fantastic in terms of seeing from the plan, but where the pointer is on the screen, this shows where the proposed two-bedroom flat would be at first floor level. And then we have the two 3-bedroom flats, which are achieved by effectively extending habitable accommodation from the second floor up into the the third floor or roof space, as shown by the pointer. Then we have proposed elevations. That one's to the rear, and this is the proposed front elevation. Members familiar with the site will be pleased to see that there are two sort of non-compliant or non-conforming windows here, which are shown to be replaced on the scheme, which is a benefit. Once again, proposed elevations and sections. Then we have photographs showing a bird's eye view of the site, and then various photographs showing what exists to the rear of that part of Field End Road. Members will be familiar. There's an access road at the rear of that part of Field End Road, and there are car parking areas beyond that, as well as some residential properties. I'll stop on a couple of these photographs. This is a photograph showing the rear of 173, 175 to the left of the photograph, and then to the right, the existing first floor extension that I mentioned before. Perhaps I could go on at this stage. Following consultation, 2 objections from residents and from the Ruislip Northwood and Eastcote Local History Society and the Eastcote Village Conservation Panel and Eastcote Residents Association were received. In addition, a ward member called the application in if recommended for approval, and as members will see from the report, that's the case. It's recommended for approval. The application, further to the submission of revised plans, the proposed extension is considered subordinate to the original property and would respect its character and appearance and that of the wider area. It would also provide adequate living accommodation and amenity space for future occupiers. The revised plans include further urban greening, a green roof on top of the proposed first floor unit. This softens its appearance and serves to improve the design of the development, and on this basis the Conservation Officer does not object. The application has also been reviewed by the Highway Authority, who are satisfied that the proposal would not exacerbate congestion or parking stress and would not raise any measurable highway safety concerns. Given the mixed-use character of this part of Field End Road, with commercial premises, generally speaking, at ground floor and residential above, there is no policy objection to the development of the site to provide additional residential accommodation, and on balance the density and design of the proposal would respect the area, would not be detrimental to the amenity of neighbouring occupiers, and therefore the application is recommended for approval. Happy to take questions. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Who's going to take me out? Go on. Councillor Oswald, Councillor Morgan.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you very much. Councillor Morgan.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favour, please indicate. Agreed unanimously. Thank you. You got that initial? Yeah. Okay. Item 13, which is Haste Hill Nurseries, 4th Street. If you have to declare an interest, so you'll be outside. Thank you. John. James, off you go.
Thank you, Chairman. Item 13. This side shows the location of the site, and this slide indicates that the whole of the site is within the green belt area. The application seeks planning permission for the demolition of 2 existing barns and the erection of 2 replacement barns. These slides show effectively outlined in red where the replacement barns will go. These are plans of the existing. There are photographs later on that show the existing barns are not in a good state. These again show the existing barns, and then we have further details about the proposals. There are photographs, as I was saying before, showing the site, and I think a little further on we can see various buildings on site. I think, as I understand it, this is one of the existing barns, which, as you can see, is not in a good state.
Would you call
luckily,
that a barn?
luckily, it wasn't a very windy day.
Doesn't even look like a barn. There you go.
With regards to consultation, 18 neighbours and the Northwood Hills Residents Association were consulted. No responses were received. As I've indicated, the proposed barns will be located in the same position as the existing towards the rear of the site. Although they're slightly larger in footprint, they would be no higher. The barns would be viewed adjacent to the existing polytunnels as shown by the photographs and reflect the agricultural nature of the site. They're considered to represent appropriate development within the greenbelt and would not detract from its openness or the rural character and appearance of the area. Accordingly, the application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Have to take.
Nearly forgot. Right. Before I open to the floor, just one thing. Those containers, is that where one of the barns is going? And are they going to be removed from the site? Because if they tidy up, I think the site needs a little bit of tidying, doesn't it? The one that says NOL on them. That's 3 20-foot containers.
I don't think that is the location of the other barn, but just to look back, these, the earlier photograph is one of the best, I think. I think the containers are towards the centre of the site, as I understand it.
Yeah.
So they're shown, I think that's approximately where they are.
Okay.
Whereas the two barns are here, one at the end of quite a large pond tunnel, and the other existing barn is just where they've just shown there on the screen. And
Okay.
as shown in the drawings. Sorry, you were looking for it.
Yeah.
So that's where the existing barns are, and effectively that's where the proposed barns are to go, shown by that slide.
If you can go back one, there's not trees there, are there? Those are just shrubs, are they?
I think that's right. That's lower than the barns.
Okay, fine. I just want to make so obviously, Councillor Osborne, Councillor Dot, talk to us. Actually, I'll give you Councillor Singh. Councillor Osborne and Councillor Singh. He needs to say something this evening.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Yeah, it's easy one, isn't it? I'll move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you very much, Councillor Singh. That'd be fantastic. I'll go straight to the vote. All those in favour of officer's recommendation, please indicate. That's a full house. Thank you very much. Can you all just please wait till we cease the live feed and we'll go to part 2.